Is your agency growing? In this video, I'm going to go over 5 smart tips for agency owners who are deciding whether to hire freelancers or full-time talent. How do you decide? Hi, my name is Matt Ackerson. I'm the founder and CEO of AutoGrow.co. In case you don't already know, we are a multi-million-dollar company and we've been in business for nearly 13 years. And in that time, we have hired and worked with over 500 freelancers and talented human beings in general. So hiring and everything associated with it is something that we have thought a lot about and we have experienced a lot around it. We've made lots of mistakes and we've had a lot of successes. So I'd like to share some of that with you in today's video and in the article that is being co-written with one of our amazing copywriters on staff, Landon. 5 tips via 5 questions. All right, I'm going to get a little more detailed, but I'm going to give you guys some really good nuggets here. So first question is, what are the signs you need to start bringing more people onto your team? Well, the obvious sign is if you see that revenue is going up, and you also should be seeing profit going up with that as well. If you are not actually seeing your company account grow at the same time that demand is growing and revenue is growing, then you have a bigger problem that you need to deal with first, and you should not actually look at bringing on more people, and you should not be taking on more projects, because the underlying problem is there is something wrong inherently with your business model. And this sounds like a very kind of obvious, like, well, duh, sort of, thing. But for a lot of entrepreneurs, depending on where you're at in your journey, it might not be. I remember just this great conversation I had with another entrepreneur, Lawrence Watkins, a very successful entrepreneur himself. He's actually an entrepreneur in residence right now at an incubator. And the way that Lawrence told me he thought about it in a very methodical way for his businesses was you want to design your business model and, on a related note, your pricing model so that it's nearly impossible for you to lose money. Because it doesn't matter if you have the demand in terms of clients coming in. It doesn't matter if you have the revenue. If you are not making a profit, you are setting yourself up for failure by bringing on new people onto your team, especially if it involves a retainer, an ongoing expense, some sort of fixed overhead additional cost, because you are just eating further into potential profit or even into the red, and that is not sustainable, and that's going to explode very fast, trust me. So in order for it to be sustainable in terms of bringing people on, you need to make sure that you have your business model set up correctly so that it's nearly impossible, and you've engineered it to be nearly impossible to actually lose money. So for example, let's say that you want to have, you decided, all right, I want my margin for the company, for the agency to be 50%. And therefore you have 50% to work with in terms of negotiating and finding and hiring qualified talent to actually get the work done for your client. And this is important because you have set what your buffer is, because that buffer is not just profit, but it's also for potential mistakes. Potentially, someone disappears, or there is maybe you make a mistake in terms of expectations or communication. The client thinks you sold them on an additional project that was included in the current project, and you just have to sort of eat that cost. So you want to keep that in mind when you are engineering your model in this way, but you have to engineer it for success, and you have to know what your numbers are. And then you have to manage towards that. Second question is, what are some common mistakes agency owners make when scaling their business? As I was just saying, I think a very common one is just not knowing your numbers, not deliberately engineering your financial aspects of your business model so that you are guaranteed to stay in business and to be profitable. This is very common, and it's very easy because it's very easy to make this mistake, especially when you're starting out. You may be kind of all over the place. You may have different contracts with different clients. You might be doing everything very custom. I mean, that's another very common mistake, is to realize that in order to scale, especially if you are in the range right now of just doing 6 figures and you're trying to get to 7 and even beyond 7 figures, but especially if you're in that 6 figures range between maybe 100,000 to a little over $500,000, you can get there just by doing custom contracts. You can do $10,000 here, $50,000 contract here, and it's all custom. All the contracts are unique. You're doing proposals, yada yada. But repetition is actually your friend, and specialization is also your friend in terms of scaling. Because by becoming more specialized in terms of what the market is actually telling you that they need, you're filling that gap in terms of need. And you are, by definition, niching yourself, even if you're not going after a specific identity. Like, we are only targeting coaches, for instance. That's another way of niching yourself. But the other way of niching yourself that I think is less talked about is you can niche yourself also just in terms of what you specialize in doing. So for example, when we were an agency years ago, we specialized in sales funnels. That was our niche, right? And it was in terms of service. So if you're trying to do a lot of things, it's normal. You're trying to move around. You might be early on kind of grasping, for success. But it's really just to kind of stay afloat. And there's like so much opportunity. You just want to grab onto all of it. Oh my God! But in terms of quality, if you want something that's going to provide enduring value, because you can make some low quality websites and you can not care about the quality. You can be kind of a discount offering in the market. You can do all of that, and you can say, we do SEO, we do this, we do that, and that's fine if that's what you want to do. But to create more enduring value, in my professional studied opinion, I think you really want to think about niching yourself. You really need to think critically about engineering your financial model and your business model for success. Because if you engineer your business model to always be profitable, this is setting you up in a situation where you just sell whatever service it is you're selling, and you have the peace of mind to know that at the end of the day, there's going to be more money in the account if you've managed appropriately than there was before you actually sold, and you don't have to go into so much of this feast or famine cycle. And in terms of repetition being your friend and specialization, just being very resistant to change, to keeping an open mind that in order to scale, you have to change. You have to change what you're doing now, because it's a cliche expression, but you won't get there the same way that you got here. You have to constantly change, and you have to be open to learning. And as another entrepreneur said, Alex Hormozi, sometimes you might be saying, I'm doing my best, I'm working. Sometimes your best is not good enough. Sometimes you have to be open to change and be open to saying, you know what, my best isn't good enough. My best has been wrong. I'm trying to grow to this level, and I need to do something different. Not just work harder, not just do more custom projects, but really think about how can you maybe productize your agency. And productization is something that we've written a lot about at AutoGrow. I encourage you can search out. I have a full ebook I wrote about it, and you should really check it out. We also have free blog posts, which you can openly Google for as well. Third question: when is it appropriate to hire freelancers? It's appropriate as long as you have the budget and you don't want to be a freelancer yourself, if that is your goal. I started technically as a freelancer, and I just realized I was really passionate about it first. I was doing some logo designs, and then I sold to our second client, and I was like, wait, I just took on now 2 clients at once. I have to deliver for them. And how am I going to do this? Well, I should consider trying to find someone to help me. And it was very much an organic process from there. And my goal was, to build a great company. And that is where we are continuously headed. So I think it comes down to, what do you want? Because you can be a very successful, very happy freelancer. But if you have a grand vision to build a company, you can pursue that. And if you want to grow, you have to bring on other people. At least this time, we're going into the age of AI. Ask me again in 5-10 years, maybe I'll give you a different answer. But it is appropriate to hire freelancers when you know that your business model makes sense, when it is aligned with your goals and with your vision, and when you know you need to do it in order to scale, because you want to try all of their options first. You might want to think about, if it's like a new project you're getting from a client, be like, well, am I just taking this project on for the money? Is it really a distraction from what is really within our core focus, within the niche that we're trying to carve out? Because you have to also be disciplined about saying, yes and especially saying no. And that can be difficult, especially if you have more of a scarcity mindset. But once you say no, you may find it will actually grow your confidence and determination to make the niche that you're going after work in terms of the package service that you're offering, and or identity of type of client you're targeting to service. Or again, you could niche in both ways. We only do sales funnels for certified nutritionists. Number 4, when is it appropriate to hire full-time talent? Full-time talent is a little bit of a different story from hiring freelance talent. Because with freelancers, you may be contracting with them on a per project basis, on an hourly basis, and they understand and you understand, hey, you might be their client, but you're probably not their only client. And you could be there on a per project basis, but as soon as, if things get slow, it's, kind of an on-demand relationship. It's, you ask when you have a need, and you sever temporarily the relationship, in terms of exchanging funds for service until you have the need again. With full-time talent, it's more of a commitment. And the mindset of people who are looking for full-time is a little bit different. There's a wide degree, this could be a whole video, I think, by itself, but by its nature and by definition, full-time talent means that you are taking on an additional fixed cost to your business. And this adds additional overhead, and you should look at it as a responsibility, because everyone that you bring on full-time to your team, to your company, you have a responsibility to be stable and profitable for them, because it is for not just your benefit, but for the organization as a whole, even if it's just 1 or 2 or 3 people. I remember one of the toughest calls I had to make. It was our first year in business. We grew too fast. We took on a big client, one of these fitness endurance brands. I won't say which one. They're one of the top ones right now, making hundreds of millions of dollars. And they were still in the early days, but they were also growing very quickly. They became one of our top clients, representing a significant portion of our revenue. But then they had a slowdown in terms of their finances. They had to go out and raise more funding. And so that meant that we had a slowdown in funding. But we had been profitable, and we basically spent pretty much all of our profits on trying to build this other SaaS tool in the meantime. And so we had five people full-time, developers, designers, and I had to call each one of them. I had to be like, look, here's the deal. We are not in good shape. We're running out of cash. I remember the moment I was walking around my apartment at the time, and all the lights were off. And it just felt terrible, because I knew that some of them, they had kids, they had families, and they were doing well. And so that was a hard lesson to learn, but I learned, again, you have to engineer for success. And part of that can be just in terms of setting up expectations in the relationship from a very early moment, where and have the peace of mind, and they also have the peace of mind in terms of, where the relationship is going and what is expected. So when is it appropriate to hire full-time talent? It's appropriate to hire full-time talent when you know that you've ironed out the kinks in your business model, and you know that you can responsibly hire that talent, and profitably too. That additional cost of whatever it is, depending on where you're hiring in the world, $500 a month or $5,000 a month, that is an investment, and that investment is designed to support 5 to 10 times the amount in terms of revenue coming in to your company. If you're able to quantify and measure that, obviously is all the better, because otherwise, if you are, for instance, billing your clients hourly and you have full-time talent that you have a commitment to pay twice a month, whatever your payment schedule is, but then maybe there's a slowdown in the economy, maybe some of your biggest clients don't want to, they have a cap in terms of how many hours billed. It could happen 1,000 different ways. You need to be aware of that and plan for that and engineer that into your model from the start. So maybe instead of charging hourly, you should be charging on a monthly, ongoing retainer basis, and maybe have a 6-month contract term, for example. And this will give you the stability that you need, as well as a buffer, as well as engineering profit into it. And finally, when is it appropriate to outsource to another agency or service provider? Well, I think a big part of this comes down to control and trust And how much transparency do you need? Because a big part of what other agencies are doing is exactly what you're doing. They might just be delegating the work to someone else, but are they effective at doing the project management? And also, are they going to protect confidentiality in terms of not like running and, telling your client, hey, we're doing work and you signed with your client, but we're actually the ones doing the work. That's unlikely to happen, but Murphy's Law. So when is it appropriate to outsource to another agency or service provider? I think when you have a need and when you see it as something that is sustainable and you believe with confidence that this is better. Because why would you do that? You would do that because your hope and expectation is you don't have to manage the additional talent, right? You're having maybe one additional point of contact who's doing all that for you. They might be managing 5, 10, whatever people, and then they give you the deliverable that you have asked for and you present that to your client. So that would be more or less when it's, appropriate, you would say, to outsource to another agency or service provider. But on this note, it's worth mentioning that AutoGrow is a service provider who you can delegate all of your clients as well as your own digital marketing tasks to. We are the one and only, the original. We were one of the first productized services to launch in 2015, and all the other people out there are really just copycats, to be honest with you. And we have built our own software technology to help us coordinate and get hundreds and hundreds and thousands of tasks done every single week for our clients. And with AutoGrow, you can scale up or down your package depending on your needs. Our teleport package is our highest value package where you can delegate up to 10 active tasks at a time. The definition of active tasks you can read more about on our website. If you're thinking in terms of projects, it's basically more or less the same thing, for all intents and purposes. And if you're interested in helping your agency to scale potentially as fast as you can sell, because that's how fast you can grow when you don't have to constantly hire people in order to grow. Instead, with AutoGrow, you pay a flat monthly fee, and whenever you're ready to scale up to the next level, you can just upgrade. And there's no contracts, and no hiring hassles. We just help you as an agency to continuously grow your revenue because you don't have to turn away clients. You don't have to have all these other concerns and worries, and many of which I already went over. You know exactly what you're paying, and you get access to 16 different skill sets: copywriting, design, development, ads management. We just launched social media marketing as of this video, and many others. So check us out if you're interested, and book your call at autogrow.co. All right, thank you so much. Leave a like, leave a comment, let me know what you thought, and let me know what are some of the biggest lessons that you've been learning or mistakes that you've made and overcome in growing your agency as it relates to hiring. All right, thank you so much. Once again, it's autogrow.co, and I will see you in the next video. Keep auto growing and stay focused.